Hello everyone, welcome, welcome. So glad that you're here for our Research Live Finalist Showcase. My name is Mike Furmond. I'm the Associate Director for Career and Professional Development at the Graduate College. I'm really excited to be here for this moment to recognize our 12 finalists. This is really the end, the culmination of months of a competition. Today, we're gonna see those presentations, we're gonna announce some awards, and we're gonna really be here to celebrate and recognize our graduate students. And yeah, I see someone clapping, go ahead. Yep, let's do that, let's do that. So there's a whole background of rules and things that I'm gonna explain, but before I get into the details, I wanted to welcome the Dean of the Graduate College, Wojtek Hodźko-Zajko, up to the stage to say a few words.
Well, let me start by welcoming everybody and thank you for coming out. I'd like to thank our contestants for submitting their work. And I'd like to reflect a little bit on the importance of this Research Live showcase. It is, I think without question, my favorite event of the whole year, with the possible exception of the doctoral hooding ceremony, which is also a big one up there. But you know, in today's world, I never ever thought I would say this, but we have to justify the value of higher education. And there are many people who are questioning it. Is it worth it? Do we need this? And I can think of no better way to express the extraordinary value that comes from higher education than by watching the scholarship, the research, the passion that is embedded in these brief 3-minute videos given by our best and brightest students. So we have 12 students from 7 colleges. You will understand some of all of their talks. You will understand everything of a few of their talks, but they are all brilliant and passionate. And what I want you to focus on is not only the content of the scholarship, but the way that they put this material together, the way that they have composed these talks. Mike's going to tell you a little bit more about the criteria for judging, but these are the very best of a large number of applications, and they're not good just because of the nature of the scholarship. They're good because of the passion and the integrity with which this work is presented. So this is a really, really exciting time, I think, for everyone at the university, because we come here to celebrate the research excellence of our students. So hats off to all of you. This is a bit hackneyed, but you are all winners tonight. But I am looking forward to seeing who are the 5 winners that are gonna be recognized by the process and by your peers. So let me hand it back to Mike and wish you all the very best.
Thank you. All right, now it's official. It can't be official until the dean speaks. So I'm your host for the event for Research Live. This is the 8th edition that we've done the competition, but there are some differences this year than in past years. One of the big ones is we are here at the Spurlock Museum in the Knight Auditorium. This is the first time we've been here. Previous years we were across the street at Krannert. And so I really just want to thank the folks at Spurlock right at the beginning for welcoming us and having us here in this fantastic space. So next I want to tell you a little bit more about sort of the rules of the competition. The idea is that these folks have to explain their research, their work, and the impact of it to a general audience, an audience that are not experts, not like well experienced or have advanced degrees in their field. They have to do this with a few restrictions. They only have 3 minutes to explain their work, and they get one visual aid in the form of one slide. Now, it sounds like, that's not that complicated. It actually is really, really hard to do for these PhD students. So back in December, we put out the call and said, we're opening submissions for Research Live. We got in our applications early March. Those submissions of recorded talks were distributed to a panel of judges made up of faculty, staff, and students here on campus. That panel recommended 12 finalists that we have here today. Those 12 finalists got a chance to work a little bit on their talk. They got some feedback from the judges. They got some coaching from the graduate college. And then they had to come in person and record their talks again. And those are the presentations that you will see today. At that point, a new panel of judges watched the talks, and we were evaluating them under 5 criteria. Organization, so how well the talk was composed and flowed. Purpose, the impact of their research. Content, the point of having a general audience so that it was clearly understandable without a lot of jargon. Delivery, the style and tone of their performance. And the visual, the slide itself, whether it enhanced the talk. So while the criteria of the competition has stayed pretty static, one of the other big changes this year has to do with our awards. In past years, we had a first, second, and third, but this year we actually have some new awards to announce. We expanded the number, and they are more thematic. So the awards we will be announcing tonight include the Visionary Award, which will be given to the person recognized for charting a new direction or coming up with a creative approach in their research. The Storyteller Award, which is all about the delivery performance. The Impact Award, that's recognizing someone whose research is making substantial positive change in the world. The Design Award recognizes the person with a great visual. And then the Grand Prize, which is the person who's recognized for excelling across all of the 5 criteria that I outlined before. So the judging for those 5 awards is already over. Like, that happened behind the scenes a week ago. We already know, but they don't know who is receiving those. But there's one there at the end that's still hanging, and that is the People's Choice Award. That is because that has not been decided, and the judges for that award are actually sitting in this room and or listening online. You all are the judges for that. After we hear all of the talks, we will open up fan voting. We will have QR code and an online form that you can go in and vote for your favorite, and we will find out the winner of the People's Choice in real time, like right at the end. So that we'll leave up to some suspense. All right, so the way this is gonna work is that I will invite each finalist up here one by one. They will introduce themselves in their talk. We will watch the video. And then I will keep them up here just a little bit and ask a couple of questions. This is really just a way to keep the spotlight on them and get them to talk a little bit more about what they do beyond their recording. It's really just our way of recognizing each one. All right, I think that's enough of me talking. Be time for our finalists to get going. So I'm going to welcome Nicole to the stage. Nicole, tell us who you are.
Hi, my name is Nicole Delmastro-Jeffery, and I am a doctoral student in Education Policy, Organization, and Leadership. And the title of my talk today is Mapping at the Margins of Environmental Justice and Racial Equity in Education.
Imagine waking up to attend class only to find instruction has shifted back online post-pandemic protocols. This time you're learning remote because your community does not have access to clean drinking water. Unfortunately, this is a growing American infrastructure trend nationwide. Take Jackson, Mississippi, for example. In fall 2022, within a 25-mile radius, 5 higher education institutions and more than 20 K-12 schools were forced back into remote learning until the local water issue was adjusted. To date, many of the schools in Jackson are still operating with limited water pressure. As a result, students in the area continue drinking bottled water and using portable restrooms or porta potties at school daily. This means there are kindergartners who have yet to attend school with a working bathroom. It seems unimaginable in 2023, America is dealing with these ongoing public health emergencies. Similar to Jackson, on average, communities with over 50% racial minority community members are more likely to experience unequal access to quality basic needs like that of clean water and pollution-free air. Intersectional issues like race, socioeconomic status, gender, and physical surroundings have long played a role in unequal health outcomes. However, environmental factors have yet to take flight as a theory of knowledge within the context of education research. Meanwhile, race is the primary variable in relation to proximity to environmental toxicity. My research maps race demographics, environmental toxins within proximity to P through 20 education systems to contextualize how race plays a role in access to quality basic needs, like clean drinking water. In essence, my research looks not only at the pipeline of students into and through education, but the public health components to the water pipes themselves, including the negative health and learning impacts on youth within lead piping precincts in America. Using spatial modeling software, my work asks questions such as, within what communities do students have access to healthy environmental factors that promote health and well-being? And conversely, in what communities is access to healthy environments limited? And how might these factors impact students' educational trajectories? This research aims to assist intersectional education scholars with the tools necessary to equip ourselves for growing climate and public health concerns of the 21st century. To further actualize racial equity in education, higher education researchers, policymakers, educators, and administrators must further investigate the intersection of race, environmentalism, health, and education. This is a growing imperative as the future of our people, planet, and progress depend on it.
A few things I feel compelled to bring up. Nicole did have to record her talk through Zoom because she was not in the Champaign-Urbana area under that timeline. I'm thrilled that you're here today, though.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, and I know for a fact, because I've seen it, that even though it was recorded in Zoom, we have better quality than that. So when the videos are publicly available,
Thank you.
there's a much better version, I promise. But I thought your talk was really powerful. Like your sort of passion came through, and particularly that ending was really powerful. I'm curious how you came to this line of research.
Yeah, absolutely. So during COVID, I became fascinated with looking at charts and maps, specifically geospatial modeling in the context of Illinois. And I started to look at disproportionate health impacts and outcomes in specific communities or census tracts. And I started to question how and in what ways environmental factors might play a role in those outcomes, and that really led me to this work.
That's fantastic. That's great. What would you hope, I mean, this is like really important work. What would you want the audience and people watching to sort of take away from your talk, your work in general, your research?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing that I'd like for the audience to take away is that, particularly in this context of the video, as I was speaking to Jackson, a good proportionate amount of the students spend a good 20 minutes of their day carrying in bottled waters every single day. And so as an educator, we know that that takes away from their learning in the classroom. And so access to quality basic needs such as clean water is an intersectional issue, and it does have a lot to do with education, and I intend to keep that at the forefront of my work.
Wow, thank you.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. Anything else you want to share before?
I think that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. All right, want to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is William, and I'm a PhD student in the College of Veterinary Medicine, the Department of Comparative Biosciences. And the title of my talk is The Gut Microbiome, the Invisible Heroes of Your Health.
Have you ever wondered what happens to the food that we eat? Why do certain foods make us feel good, but others make us feel bloated? Now, the answer is the gut microbiome. The gut microbiome are a collection of bacteria, fungi, viruses that live inside our gut. Now, there are many of them, and they provide essential, perform physiological functions in our body that are very important for our health. For example, beans, lentil, legumes, broccoli, and other fibrous vegetables, they actually contain many indigestible dietary fibers that escape human digestion and are fermented by the gut bacteria in the colon. This process actually produces gas, which causes a feeling of bloating. Now, bacteria don't just cause bloating issues, they're actually indispensable for our health. Many of their byproducts include micronutrients such as vitamins, polyphenols that are really essential for our body. In terms of bacterial function, they also provide the mucus barrier. They build the mucus barrier, maintain the gut mucus barrier, which is an important physical barrier that helps to protect your gut against the environmental toxins, pathogens, and other harmful substances. Now, what I'm interested here, if you look on the slide, I'm interested in how the gut microbiome can digest dietary fibers that we consume and produce many micronutrients that are essential for our body functions. For example, they improve the immune function, they improve the gut mucus barrier, and they also provide many nutrients that provide many beneficial effects for our body. Specifically, I'm working on how a very common bacterial microbe called Bacteroides intestinalis and how it can digest dietary fiber and ferment the fiber and produce the many micronutrients. Other things that Bacteroides intestinalis also does is that it helps to build the gut mucus barrier. And this is very important because improving and maintaining the gut mucus barrier can help to prevent many gastrointestinal diseases such as ulcerative colitis and colon cancer where the gut mucus barrier is typically damaged. Now, in terms of how it can do this, more research is really needed. In terms of more how different Bacteroides intestinalis and how it can interact with the food that we eat and produce these polyphenols, for example. Polyphenols is also nature's antioxidant that can help to improve immune function and mitigate inflammation. Now, there are so many unknowns in the gut microbiome world, but my take-home message for today is that consume a lot more veggies because these are really good for your gut microbiome to build the mucus barrier and provide many essential nutrients that can benefit your body. Thank you.
That's great. That's why I like this, because we all learn like important things. And easily my favorite term from all the talks, sorry everybody else, is was it gut mucus barrier? Like I am never gonna forget. Yes. I think if I started a punk band tomorrow, we'd be gut mucus barrier. So we have a gut expert here, and so, eat more vegetables, but what should we be focusing on to help our gut out? What kinds of foods should we be eating?
So I think this is a very complicated question because everybody is different. But I think moderation is really key, eating the right kinds of food and definitely, limiting your intake for McDonald's and, all that kind of food is very good for you. Definitely have more, healthy vegetables because these vegetables actually contain so many nutrients that are really good for you. However, moderation is key and eating the right kinds as well. If you feel bloated after eating vegetables, don't eat that vegetable again. Yeah.
It's good advice. You talked about in your talk these unknowns, that more research needs to be done. Whether it's yourself or just your area in general, what is being done next? Like, what do you look forward to?
I think what we are looking forward to is something called precision medicine. So what this does is that, you take some sort of fiber and then you try to match it with the dietary needs of a person. And, sometimes that has been shown to help promote the cancer therapy and actually helps to, bring more benefits to treatments for cancer, for example. Whereas if you don't take in your dietary fiber, sometimes cancer treatment alone doesn't cure it as well as if you, eat it with the right kinds of food. Yeah, so that's called precision or targeted therapeutics.
That's next year's talk, right?
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to share?
I think that's it. Eat more veggies, obviously. Yeah.
All right. I'm glad my kids are here, so I'm really glad they heard the eat more veggies part. Okay, our next finalist, Eric, come on.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Erick Hernandez. I'm a fifth-year PhD candidate in material science and engineering. And today my talk will actually ask you, how much is a color worth? And quantum dots can tell you. If a picture's worth 1,000 words, then how much is a color worth? When you look at a painting in a museum, the colors blend together to give you a sense of beauty. When you look at a cell underneath the microscope, the colors give you information about what's going on inside. You may have noticed that a painting in a museum has colors that look quite different than a picture on your phone. And this has to do with the way that we represent color. Now, when you think about color, the first thing that you imagine is probably a rainbow. And rainbows are a great example of the colors that our eye can see. But colors are really just the names that we give to the different energies of light. In a rainbow, every color has a different energy. In fact, you can take any part of the rainbow, no matter how small, and you would have a different energy, and we would call it by a different color. But all of this information is taken by our eyes and represented as a combination of only 3 colors, of red, green, and blue, and used to create a picture inside of our head. But we don't use our eyes to take scientific measurements. In fact, our science instruments are much more sensitive to the energy of light than our eye could ever be. So why should we be limited to the colors that our eye can see when we're making scientific measurements? As a material scientist, I like to ask the question, what materials can we make that release different colors, new colors that we can use to study biology? Now, the materials that I study are called quantum dots, and I use techniques called quantum simulations and experiments to make these materials, to try to understand how we can make different colors. Now, quantum dots are really small. So small, in fact, that you can fit 1,000 of them in the width of a single hair. So small that we can put them inside of cells. We can attach them to proteins or biomarkers and watch them move in real time to study how a drug is being delivered, or compare a healthy cell to a diseased one. Now, quantum dots really function as filters. They absorb many energies of light, but remarkably, they only release a single color. And because of this, we can use multiple quantum dots at once and filter them to only look at one at a time from a single picture of a cell. This lets us study many moving parts at the same time and capture more information about what's going on inside the cell. I try to study why it is that we can change the color of these materials by only changing their size or their shape. I can look at how making them bigger or smaller, thinner or thicker changes the color, or even better, I can look at how different materials change the color of these quantum dots. If we understand the way that changing the size or the material changes the energy that's being released, then we can predict what materials, what sizes, and what shapes we need to make new colors. So next time someone asks you, how much is a color worth? I hope you think back to this and you decide to say, a color is worth 1,000 data points.
It's another great closer. I got to laugh here. I got to laugh for the judges, too.
That's true.
Who are
Thank you.
watching. It's really nice. All right, so you have some very technical aspects of your work that I want to dig deeper into. You mentioned doing both simulations and experiments, and I'm curious, why do simulations? Like what is the difference and why do you do that in your work?
Yeah, that's a question I get a lot. And a big part of it comes down to what can you model exactly? And when we're looking at an experiment, you have a perfect model of the universe, right? You're only going to measure something that's real. But when it comes to these quantum dots, we're looking at millions of them at the same time, and they're all going to be slightly different. In a simulation, I actually have perfect control of where every single atom is, and that way I can study exactly how a little change leads to a pretty big difference.
Wow, that's excellent. You also mentioned, using quantum dots for like biomarkers and then elements of biology. You're material science, right? So what does your work have to do with connection to something like biology?
So I'm fortunate to be co-advised by a bioengineer, and so I actually see how the materials that I work with in the lab are put into practice basically every day. So what bioengineers want is they want to be able to image cells in a really clear fashion. And the sort of synthetic dyes that we have right now don't perform well. There's a lot of limitations to how much information they can get from a single experiment. So a material scientist has the perspective of how the material actually leads to specific properties. So we're not just focused on using the material, but instead we want to provide useful materials to other people. So the bioengineers take these materials with different colors, and then they apply their own methods to getting a lot of information about how disease works.
That's fantastic. All right, I'm compelled to ask, what is your favorite color?
Oh, I like gray-blue, or the color of a sky before a thunderstorm.
Wow, of course the color expert is like, the color of a sky before, like nothing, it can't be regular. That's fantastic. Anything else you want to share before?
I like to encourage everyone to read up about material science. It's something a lot of people don't hear about till they're in college. So for the kids in the audience, look now. It's actually really fun.
That's great. Great pitch there. Okay, next up, Joe, come on up.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Joe Mirabelli from the Department of Educational Psychology. My talk is about how ecological perspectives can help address graduate student stress. Hi, I'm Joe Mirabelli. About 5 years ago, I decided to leave a PhD program. And around that time, a lot of the grad school friends that I had were either thinking about leaving or leaving themselves. For me, I was really stressed out. I was having a bad relationship with my research advisor, and this led to me feeling pretty seriously depressed. But these experiences, they're not uncommon. Estimates suggest that about half of all PhD students across all disciplines in the United States drop out of their programs. This is costly to universities and to students in terms of money, in terms of time, and above all in terms of mental health. So now I research stress in PhD programs. High stress has been measured to impact students' mental health. It can cause psychological issues like anxiety or depression disorders. These are both interrelated with dropping out of programs. And it's known that grad school is really stressful. You have to balance doing research, learning new research skills in an environment that's competitive, with also taking classes and teaching and other professional development activities. So we know that it's stressful, but how can we measure and how can we intervene on behalf of graduate students who are experiencing this stress? So in my research, what I do is I mix methods. I use quantitative research methods, like the kinds of diagnostic surveys that psychologists use, with qualitative methods like interviews. I conducted over 200 interviews and administered over 400 surveys last year with PhD students. And with the help of an awesome research team, I analyzed these. On my slide, you can see a model. This is Bronfenbrenner's bioecological systems model, and we aligned our data with this. The model is all about how you develop and interact with things in your surroundings. The closer something is to you, the more often you interact with it, the more influential it can be, and the more you can influence it. So close by are people that you talk to on a day-to-day basis, but further out might be structures like laws, cultures, and politics. Now, we found some important trends. How proximal something is to you is important for how stressful it can be. So for example, if you fight with your romantic partner or your advisor, that's really personal, it's going to be very stressful. But things that are further out can still be stressful too, because you have no control over them. All graduate students have to take a comprehensive qualifying exam. You can't get out of that, so that's stressful. This gives us implications for how we can have counselors interact with students. So for example, counselors can train you to deal with close-by stressors by helping you prepare for difficult conversations, or stressors that you can't change by helping you deal with your time management or regulate your emotions. In sum, I look at these social structures to find trends, and I use these trends to inform interventions, so that students like the me of 5 years ago can be more supported to stay in their PhD programs. Thank you for listening.
So unfortunately for Joe, there is no award for best dressed, as much as we wanted to. Hang out for a minute. I have to ask you, graduate student stress is something that you've experienced, something that many of the graduate students I work with experience. And I was hoping you could share more about, some of the lessons you've learned through all of those interviews and data analysis on graduate student stress, and just share more of that with our audience.
Yeah, sure. So I think there's two pretty significant things that the students who were the least stressed out in our study were doing pretty regularly that I can give as advice to you all. So the first is that they had really strictly set routines. They were, sometimes doing different things on different days, but within the days they were attempting to spend some time on themselves, exercise, read some papers, engage in some hobbies. They were also setting some really firm boundaries with their schedules. So they were taking one day off every weekend no matter what. They were taking some evening times where they would not do work or answer emails. After these times, they were, carving time into their schedules for their hobbies and making sure that they were, devoting something to themselves and not just to the PhDs. And it was those students who really were some of the least stressed of our sample.
That is fantastic advice. I know many of the students I talk to, and from my own experience, have that feeling that, when you are a graduate student and you're kind of control your own schedule, you feel like you should always be working. You're always on all the time. And so creating those barriers is really fantastic advice. Anything else you'd want to share from your own experience or about your work?
Yeah, I'll just say one other thing, and that's that engineering students in specific, that's the population I mostly look at, are some of the least likely students to look for help. And this can be from their advisors, from other students, or for trained counselors, mental health professionals. And I think there's just like a stigma that we need to work on eroding a little bit as a community of scholars that's really important to address. I like to say there's kind of this paradox where people they go to see dentists, and if you had a friend who didn't see a dentist, you would think it's really weird that they haven't checked on their teeth. But you can go your whole life without seeing a therapist, and nobody thinks that's weird. And that's a sign to me that we have this stigma in place, that we really need to say that it's normal and it's important and healthy to go see, just check in on your brain every once in a while.
That is a really powerful message. That's an amazing metaphor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great job, John. All right, we're gonna move right along. Gafar, are you ready? Come on up. Have you introduced yourself and your talk?
Hi. Hi, everyone. My name is Abdulgafar Sulaiman. I'm a PhD student in civil engineering, and the topic of my talk would be asphalt, my friend. In 1971, Bruce Lee, the martial artist, said, "Be formless, be shapeless, like water. You put water into a cup, it becomes a cup. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend." In retrospect, I think he meant asphalt binder. Asphalt binder is the black fluid by which our roads are constructed. In his quote, Bruce Lee encourages us to be flexible, to not be rigid, to be resilient and adaptable to our environment. In the hot summer, asphalt becomes stiff enough to prevent rotting. In the cold winter, asphalt becomes soft enough to prevent cracking. This flexibility of asphalt also makes asphalt concrete the most recyclable material at 99%. All you have to do is collect it, reheat it, and you are ready to pave it again. My research is in optimizing the properties of asphalt binder. I am currently working on evaluating the use of highway pavement materials in airport pavement construction. As you would expect, there are differences in the functional usage of airport pavement and highway pavement. The airplanes are so big and heavier than our cars. Also, the safety concern is higher for airplanes than on the highway. Plane crashes are usually fatal. However, this also requires that airport pavements are constructed with very expensive and high quality material. However, there are some airports that intersect between highway pavement and airport pavement. They are called non-primary airports. And these are airports that support lesser, lighter planes like 20, 30 passenger planes. And they are in abundance across the state of Illinois. For every single primary airport, like the Chicago O'Hare, there are 9 non-primary airports. These studies would be carried out by various performance testing of the different highway and pavement construction materials that we have in Illinois. And there are a number of advantages for us. The number one is money. Economically, using highway pavement materials in airport pavement would lead to a lot of savings in materials. given that we have a 9-to-1 ratio. That is a lot of savings. And then also this opened up this project to a number of contractors, which encourages competition and drives down prices. Also, the experience of the highly developed highway pavement construction industry can be introduced to airport pavement construction. The flexibility and resilience of asphalt binder in response to a diverse range of adverse environmental conditions, as well as its adaptability in various pavement construction, are the reason why you should be asphalt, my friend. Thank you.
I always felt like a strong connection with your talk because I am also a hands talker. And I really loved your hand moves when you talked about the flow of water. I was like, yes, this is my style. Great talk, great talk. I remember, I have to tell the story because you were the first person to record. And you came in and you did your talk and you got so excited, so passionate. This is the most passionate person about asphalt in the entire world, hands down. And so actually, I want you to tell people why you care about asphalt so much. Tell some of that story.
Yeah, because it is very, very important to our existence as human beings. And then people don't really talk about it enough in the sense that, so when you think of important fluids to human beings, right, they say water. Water is important for us. It aids digestion. We use it for our household and all. And then, like in Nigeria, there's a song that says, water no gets enemy. That means like water has no enemies, right? Even if your friends drowns in the sea, you're still going to use water the next day and all. And then another fluid that they talk about is like air, right? They say air is you breathe in air, oxygen and all. If you love someone, they say you are the air that I breathe and all of that. But then nobody talks about this fluid, asphalt, that's like literally holding together our transportation infrastructure, right? Like the roads that we go on, our healthcare, our ambulance. If there's an emergency, the ambulance go on the road. Our leisure, if you want to go to Disneyland, if you want to go to Paris, if you want to shop, you take the road. Your Uber Eats, your Amazon, all your deliveries, all your packages, they are moving on the roads. And then, like the highest investments by the United States in the 20th century was the construction of the interstates, where they spent like billions, hundreds of billions of dollars to construct these roads. So it is very, very important for us, but then nobody cares about this black fluid because it's so.
That's why I'm glad you're here, because you get us to care. Like, I care now. I'm really thinking about it. I may not use asphalt as a metaphor for how much I love somebody, but I care about it more now. And then I also got to ask you, because you brought up Bruce Lee, and do you have a favorite Bruce Lee film? Are you a Bruce Lee fan?
Yeah, I didn't watch quite a lot of. I think I seen like 2 or 3, and then that was like when I was young. But then now that I remember, my favorite would be Fist of Fury. I think that was one that had Jackie Chan also like a cameo appearance in that. I think that would be my favorite of like the very, very few Bruce Lee films that I've seen.
I like Game of Death, because he fights Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in that one.
I saw that, like, I watched it again like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's right. You check that one out. Anything else you want to share?
No, just respect asphalt. Whenever you're driving on the road, just like think about this fluid that is supporting everything that I'm working on.
Wise words, yes. Thanks. Come on up, Ricky.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ricky Price. I'm a third-year PhD student in the Special Education Department, and my talk is called Why Work Matters. So, what do? I'm assuming if you answered that question, you told me what you do for work, or you told me what you're doing to prepare yourself to be able to get a job. That's because work is so ingrained into society and how we live. Work can positively impact many aspects of our life, such as our financial power to be able to access healthcare, buy food, do fun things, also create a social network. I don't know about you, but some of my best friends are from the jobs that I've had, the career that I've developed for myself. Our psychological well-being, our mental health can be positively impacted by the work that we do, creating this sense of autonomy over our lives, how we're interacting with society, feeling this sense of belongingness and a sense of purpose and contribution. But work can also negatively impact all of these areas as well. specifically for people with disabilities who the employment rate is significantly lower than people without disabilities. Or if they are employed, they're employed in typically more segregated settings, so they're not able to create that social network maybe with others. They're not paid as much as their other peers, so their financial power is being negatively impacted. And all of this can negatively impact someone's mental health, their sense of belongingness and purpose, and interacting with society. So that is where my research comes into play. People with disabilities and disabled individuals are at the center of it. And I'm doing more intervention type work, providing them the supports to learn the skills that they need to obtain or maintain work. I also do more qualitative work where I'm collecting in-depth interviews with professionals who are supporting people with disabilities or disabled individuals, such as special education teachers or other related service professionals, to make sure that they have the right supports to support these people. Family members of people with disabilities or disabled individuals, understanding their perceptions against their loved ones working and how that might impact their career development. And I'm also working with employers, making sure that their attitudes are not creating barriers for people with disabilities obtaining or maintaining work, how they're supporting their employees with disabilities and providing them the skills that they need and really understanding where they're coming from. So at the end of the day, my research can support people with disabilities or disabled individuals by telling me what they do for work when I ask them the question, so what do you do?
You brought some fans.
Yeah.
You brought some fans. All right, so you asked the question, and I'm going to ask you, what do you do?
That's a great question. Currently I'm a PhD student, but yeah, I've really built this kind of work and career in supporting people with disabilities. So before kind of getting a PhD, I worked in schools, I worked in a clinical setting, in the community, just supporting people with disabilities and their families.
And is that sort of like the motivation for wanting to work with disabled individuals or people with disabilities?
Yeah, so I actually have a family member who has a disability, so that kind of sparked my interest from the very beginning to get into this, because I saw it from a family perspective of the system that might have been broken or how society needs to be more inclusive, and that kind of has directed me towards where I'm going.
And where are you going next?
That's a great question. Graduating, that's where I'm going.
That's good enough. Congratulations. Congratulations. Anything else you want to share about your work?
No, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Ricky. That's great. All right, Yash, come on up.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yash Kamble. I'm from Department of Chemical and Biomolecular Engineering, and my talk is titled Color Changing Smart Materials, Rethinking Material Synthesis. Hello, everyone. If you have seen the Disney movie Tangled, you might remember our friend Pascal from the movie. Now, if you remember something more about him, you might realize that he's a chameleon who can change the color of his skin in order to blend with the environment, just to hide from the predator, or just to express his emotions. Now, he can do that just because his skin is made of a specific type of material which are arranged in a specific pattern in order to give him the ability to change the color of his skin. Now, wouldn't it be cool if we could make our own chameleon skin? The goal of my research is to do just that, to mimic such functionalities by making materials that could allow us the possibility to change the color in response to the environment. Now, the way I tend to do that is by making materials called polymers, more specifically bottle brush polymers, a pictorial representation of which is shown on the top right. Now, when we make these polymers, these are primarily white in color. And as the name suggests, bottle brush polymers are exactly what the namesake looks like that we use on a day-to-day basis in our homes to clean the bottles. As for the polymers part, those polymers, or the materials that we call them, are basically a conjunction of smaller repeat units called monomers. Now, as I said, when we make them, it's white in color. But when we do some further processing on them, they arrange themselves in a specific pattern, as a representation of which is shown in the bottom center figure, which align themselves in an arrangement when we shine the white light on it, it reflects a particular type of color based on either the size or dimensions of the arrangement and the type of arrangement that you have. Now this is what we call as structural color, and we can tune that by just changing the arrangement of the polymers or the dimensions of the polymers. Now on the right side of the figure, or the bottom right of the slide, we can see a pictorial representation or a picture of an happy accident in the lab where I made some polymers, but I just dropped a little bit of it on the slide, and then it gave me the colors that you beautifully see in the picture. Now, the goal of my research is to furthermore understand what makes these materials stick. And by that, I mean, how can we change the color by changing the stimulus of the environment? Now, that would be interesting because that will allow us to reach the goal of adaptive camouflaging and understanding different types of sensors. And how do we approach that? Now, finally, I would like to leave you all with the thought that the understanding developed in my research, we would be able to achieve our goal of making something look like the chameleon skin that we have in Pascal's case, and use that as an environmentally friendly substitute for traditional dyes and all the possible applications that I highlighted before. Thank you.
All right, I have to ask about the happy accident, because there's an interesting story, but the way I heard it is like, do you just normally go around like dropping things or breaking things when you're in need of inspiration, or?
I would say I wish that was the case, but generally as I showed in the figure, generally when we make them, this is like white materials, and you don't get to see those colors that you have. But once in a while, you just accidentally drop it on the platform and you see those colors. And, that makes my day, I would say.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would say, usually I would imagine, an accident happening, you drop something, people be like, oh, what'd you do? And I could just see you, being like, let's just give it some time. Let's just see what happens. This might be a good thing.
Yeah, I would say my boss would be afraid of me doing that,
All right, and also, I'm a movie person, so when someone brings up a movie, you introduce the chameleon from Tangled. Are you a Tangled fan? Do you like Tangled?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. That's why the reference was there,
Yeah. What is your favorite Disney movie if it's not Tangled?
Oh, that's a long list. I don't know where to begin, but Tangled is up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Tangled is a good one. You might be my daughter's favorite just because of Tangled.
Yeah, I hope she votes for me.
Anything else you want to share about your work?
No, I think that sums it up. Yeah.
Thank you. Great job. Come on up.
Hi everyone, I'm Breanna Metras. I am a fourth-year PhD candidate in the Department of Nutrition Sciences. I'm also working to get my registered dietitian. And the title of my talk is called Keeping Kefir Authentic. Nutrition is arguably one of the most important concepts that we have to worry about as humans, but it's also one of the most confusing. This is why I study the gut microbiome and how the foods that we eat impact the microbes that live inside of our bodies. And so the market for foods that support the gut microbiome have been producing over $6 billion every year internationally. These foods can consist of fermented foods, probiotics, or probiotic supplements. What if I told you none of those products are regulated by the US government? This is why we need researchers like myself to check and make sure these products are accurate and these companies are being truthful. Many fermented foods consist in this category, such as kimchi, kefir, sourdough bread, and many others that you might have heard of. These fermented foods actually make the minerals, vitamins, and other components of the food matrix more absorbable for our bodies and our gut microbiome. This is why they're so popular. So many different food companies have tried to make their own versions of these fermented foods, but they do make a lot of shortcuts. And these shortcuts in the fermentation process have changed the makeup and the bacteria and what is actually in the product you're being sold. My research focuses on double-checking kefir, which is a fermented milk beverage from the Caucasus Mountains, and kef means to feel good. And so drinking this beverage for centuries have had a great association with feeling good and being healthy. But the products sold in stores right now are not fermented the same way. And so my research has tested 11 different kefir products that you can buy in your local grocery store. And we found that over 48% of those 11 products do not have accurate ingredient lists or do not report their bacteria quantity accurately or correctly. And due to this, we have raised a lot of concerns. When you buy this kefir at the store, it doesn't tell you if it's traditional or commercial, if you're getting the authentic product or the new commercialized shortcut version. And so this could have bigger health effects, but we just don't know what they are yet. So due to my research, we have found, like I said, over 50% of these products are incorrect. The leading product was over 94% not disclosed on their label. So this is a reason why we need more research for this topic, and this data will help create better regulations and better discrimination for consumers like you. As a soon-to-be dietitian, I think this is really important to me, and increasing consumer trust and transparency is the way to go. Thank you.
Great talk. There was certainly some shock value to that one when you were throwing out those percentages of how many products are misleading and unregulated. How do we make things better? Like, what are you thinking about? What is your work leading to create some change?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So one way to make this better is to increase third-party testing, and companies that are responsible for just double-checking what the companies who are selling these products are doing, so making sure it's accurate. A big part that could definitely use improvement is within the government system of regulating these products. Right now, we have a huge explosion of products with probiotics, fermented foods, live microorganisms, because we all are obsessed with gut health and improving that. And so we're very naive to buy anything off the shelves, and unfortunately our government is way behind that. And so whether or not regulations will ever be put in place is really a big question. One of my goals in life is to hopefully work for the USDA and help establish a new regulation branch for probiotics. We already have one for supplements. You might have heard it's not the best. And so we do have a lot of room for improvement there.
So you actually want to work and make change from the inside then?
Yes, it's been a long journey, 4 years of this work, and I'm trying to decide where can I take this research and personally make a change. And I think working for one of these companies is a route, but I don't think that will improve overall consumer transparency in terms of nutrition education. So I think going to the government, going inwards and try to write policy or regulation for products of this nature might be the best route for myself.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I know you didn't mention names in the talk, but I imagine there might be people coming up to you afterwards.
Yeah.
Like,
check out my publications. They're all in the publication. Those companies, they didn't pay us, so they're not happy they're out, but they're out. So do your own research.
Anything else you'd like to share?
No, but nutrition is simple. Keep it simple, and like he said, eat lots of vegetables, but the other food groups as well.
Thank you. That's great. Charlie, come on up.
Hello, I'm Charlie. I'm from the Department of Speech and Hearing Science, and my talk is about using virtual reality to improve teachers' voices. The human voice is an extraordinary mechanism. Our voice is literally an instrument that can bring audiences to a roaring applause, alert rescuers into action, and even bring listeners to tears of joy. Nearly everything we learn in school is transmitted through our teacher's voice. But what happens when a teacher has a vocal injury? Teachers are considered vocal athletes because they rely on their voice every day at work to perform their job. Their vocal muscles determine if they receive a salary or if they're unemployed. Being a vocal athlete comes with a high likelihood of vocal injury. Nearly 7 out of every 10 teachers experiences a vocal injury during their career. These injuries range from severe hoarseness to complete loss of voice, and that has some serious consequences, including visits to the doctor, reduced academic performance in their students, and a high economic impact. In the United States alone, vocal injury in teachers costs $2.5 billion each year. However, my research is looking to avoid these consequences by understanding the external factors and internal factors underlying vocal injury in teachers. The external factors are intertwined with the classroom environment, such as its size, number of students, and noise levels. My research turns to immersive virtual reality to simulate a variety of classroom environments. Participants in my research wear a VR headset and are transported to various virtual classrooms. They give lessons, and in doing so, I get clues about how auditory feedback and visual cues in a classroom contribute to vocal injury in teachers. My research also examines the internal factors underlying vocal injuries in teachers. These internal factors are related to how teachers are using their voices. My research looks at the voice acoustic signal as a biomarker for undetected vocal injury. Just like our body's temperature is a biomarker for a fever, the voice's acoustic signal can be a biomarker for vocal injury. My research puts participants' voices to the test, and using high-quality microphones and other recording equipment, we can analyze the voice signal and determine the acoustic biomarkers of vocal injury. In doing so, tools can be implemented within the classroom to detect vocal injuries before they occur. Together, a better understanding of the external classroom-based factors and internal acoustic biomarkers will help school administrators, healthcare professionals, and teachers themselves in avoiding vocal injury altogether, hopefully reducing the nearly 70% of teachers who experience this health hazard during their career. That will make teachers' careers healthier, improve the students' academic outcomes, and reduce healthcare costs. As the famous saying goes, better than 1,000 hours of diligent study is one day with a great teacher.
Great job. All right, so I'm curious about VR, because it's cool. You've done it before. You put on the headset, right? What is it like using VR? How do you prep participants for what it's like being in that environment?
A great question. There is prep involved because our brain does readily accept the VR as real. So most of the time it goes smoothly. In my research, participants are seated, but in people who play VR games or have used VR extensively, sometimes they do experience motion sickness. And so that's something I had to consider in my research. Thankfully, keeping people seated kept things pretty stable, but it's a really fascinating tool.
I was interested in it. But I'm also really drawn to the term you use called vocal athlete, which is something I had never heard of or thought of before. And when you explain the impact of it in terms of the teaching profession, we all might be giving performances or have education people who use their voice a lot here. What are some tips or techniques you might give a vocal athlete to keep their voice healthy?
Fantastic question, yeah. In addition to teachers, vocal athletes are people who rely on their voice as their main tool of their trade for their work. So people like customer service representatives, salespeople, courtroom lawyers, broadcasters, professional singers, absolutely. What I would say is consider yourself an athlete, so take care of your body. Drink plenty of water, get plenty of sleep, avoid smoking because that will really irritate your vocal cords and could cause cancer. And then a great thing to do is not many people think about is warming up your voice. So as a teacher's driving into work, instead of sitting there with cold vocal cords, do some comfortable humming, some singing, or just recite your classroom lecture and get those muscles ready to go.
That's great, thank you. Anything else you want to share?
Oh, no, thank you so much.
Thank you. So you've got eat your veggies, drink water, get sleep, set barriers. We're just getting all the tips out. Come on up, Taiylor.
Hello, everyone. I am Taiylor Rayford, a third-year doctoral student in the Department of Educational Psychology. The title of my talk is, What do you expect? The Importance of Expectations and a Sense of Belonging. Imagine this. You're a new student, excited to join a club and make new friends. You just know it's going to be amazing because you get to connect with other students who like the things you do. Your expectations are high. However, once you get there, you're having a hard time. You're not really making friends and you feel like you don't matter. You're met with disappointment. Despite sharing commonalities and interests with the group members, you don't feel like you belong. All right, so I know many of us can really relate to this experience, this idea of not quite belonging in a space you thought you would. I know I can, which is why I'm studying this phenomenon, which I'm calling belonging fulfillment, which is how well one's expectations of belonging aligns with one's experiences of belonging. All right, so at this point, I know you're probably thinking, not belonging sucks, but why does it matter? And don't worry if you had this thought. A lot of people who are unfamiliar with social science research have similar thoughts. But I can tell you why it matters. A sense of belonging, which for the purpose of this presentation we'll define as a student's sense of feeling respected, mattered, and included, is so important. Not only is a sense of belonging important for all of us and a desire that we all have, but specifically within the academic context, it's important to mental and physical well-being, academic motivation, and academic success. All this to say, for a student to truly thrive and be successful in education, they need to feel a sense of belonging to their school. However, right now, when we talk about sense of belonging, it's pretty simple. We send the students a survey, have them fill it out, we give them an average number, and we see what happens. I argue that it's much more nuanced when we talk about sense of belonging. For us to really promote student development and have students have belonging, we need to understand their expectations. Think about it. When you're met with disappointment, whether at work, with friends, or at school, it's likely you disengage and you just don't want to do anything anymore. As opposed to when your expectations are met or even exceeded, you're probably more engaged than ever and so excited. I argue that something similar happens for our students when we talk about their belonging expectations. My most recent research, through both interviews and surveys, found that universities are not meeting the expectations of their students, and I argue that that is alarming given what we know about belonging and its relation to academic success. Moreover, my research continues to look at belonging fulfillment, lack of fulfillment, the implications for both, and how we can work with academic institutions to meet our students' belonging expectations. When we have a better understanding of sense of belonging and belonging expectations, we can work with our academic institutions to improve the resources and programming available to help our students feel like they belong, which in turn helps the students thrive. And at the end of the day, isn't that the goal of education?
Great job. I have to tell a little story because, they all make it look so easy. You make it look so easy. But when they were coming in to record, all these people are coming to a building they've never been in before. They go in this room, it's like half dark, half lamps with these like lights like coming right at you. And you were so calm, composed. You were like ice water when you came in.
It was all acting, nervous, so nervous.
It did not show. It was so smooth. I was so impressed. And also, really interesting because you were bringing in new ideas and your approach was really different in terms of what you were looking at that hadn't been done before. Can you tell us how it was different and your kind of process there?
Yeah, so when we think about so I'm in the Department of Educational Psychology, and so when we think about theories, we have education theories, we have psychology theories, and we have educational psychology theories, right? And so the way in which I approach my research, I kind of pull from all of them, right? I pull a little bit from psychology, a little bit from education, and a little bit from ed psych. And furthermore, like I said, not really a lot of people talk about expectations when we think about belonging, which is kind of wild because how many times does your expectations really affect how you kind of experience the world? So really just this idea of belonging fulfillment, it's not like a coin turn, I just kind of made it up, and I'm hoping it sticks. So we'll see what happens. But really just thinking of this idea of belonging fulfillment, I think is kind of where we're going with that.
I think it's so great. It's you invented this whole new concept and you're like, I just made it up. What's next? It sounds like you're doing more and... Yeah, the goal is to really look at the implications of this, right? So if we're, universities aren't meeting the expectations of their students, what exactly does that mean? A little bit more research on that, I'm assuming, I'm guessing, academic guess, that, when our students are not meeting the expectations, right, then that means they're probably less likely to really, stay in school, probably less likely to make friends and things like that. So I'm really digging into that aspect of the research a little bit more and see what happens. Come back next year. I'll hear more. Yeah. Anything else you want to share?
Eat your veggies. No. But seriously. No, seriously. I think psychology and educational psychology is pretty cool. I just want to give a plug to the social sciences. A lot of times they kind of consider it a soft science, but I think it's much more complicated than that. It's much more nuanced and much more messy, maybe a hard science. So I don't know. Take psychology, learn about education, all the above. So yeah.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Are you ready?
Yeah. Hi everyone, I'm Yaman. I'm a second-year PhD in Information Sciences school. And the title of my talk today is How do Internet users from Bangladesh and India deal with targeted ads on social media? Thank you.
Hello everyone. Have you ever noticed the ads on social media apps, such as Instagram, seems to show the same products you were searching for? How do you feel about these targeted ads? Well, researchers have found users in global north have complex attitudes toward target ads. Most people don't like it when the information is gathered for targeted ads, and a little small number of people do enjoy it for saying new things to buy. I mean, the people in the world using social media apps these days, and it's so hard to stop using it. So we definitely want to have a better design of ads controls and rules by learning how people feel about target ads and what challenges they encountered before. But not so many studies have looked at how folks in South Asian countries like Bangladesh and India feel about target ads. That's where our project comes in. Our group and I conducted interviews with 40 people using social media in Bangladesh and India with diverse of background. And after analyzing the interview transcriptions, we noticed the new concerns from these two populations. Instead of worry about overwhelming information gathering for the target ads, they have more concern about the fraudulent ads aimed at low-income populations. They shared a lot of stories about friends and family members losing money from the ads on the social media. Another unique concern we find is related to the privacy issue on device sharing. For users in South Asia, it's normal to share devices with family members, especially for young women. But improperly targeted ads can cause awkward moments. Imagine like you are sharing the device with your mom, and your mom can infer what you browsed on social media by the target ads. Lastly, South Asian users also concerned about being manipulated by gender-based ads. For example, girls getting ads related to the weight-losing products might start thinking about wrong things about their bodies. So these discoveries could help the tech companies realize people in the world in different cultures can have different needs for ad controls. And this will lead companies to design the better ad controls and rules to help users protect their privacy and finance while using social media. Thank you for listening.
All right, so this is your platform. What would you tell the tech companies, the advertisers? This is like, we can edit it out later if you want to get rid of it. What would you want them to?
Yeah, so for myself, I use social media every day. It's hard to deny it. And actually, our participants told a lot of good suggestions to us, and we want to convey this to the tech companies. A good news is they do listen to users because they want your time and attention on the app. So we definitely want they have better regulation and policy to check the quality of the ads, because people losing money to buy fake products and low quality products on social media. Even myself have the same experience before. Like I find a makeup fantasy on the video ads, but when it delivered to my home, it's a trash. It's just a rubbish. So I'm really losing money on the social media ads. They have the ability to give better regulation and checking. And another side, from the design perspective, we want to give users more control on the target ads. For example, you should have the control to see like what types of ads, more or fewer, and they hide this choice in a separate page, like called ad preference. I doubt any user really go to that page before. And I would suggest the tag company simplify the user control for the ads topics. For example, if I want to, or you want to see more laptop ads or see less credit card ads, you just simply tapping on the three-dot menu next to the ads and choose less on these topics. Yeah, that's the suggestions.
That's fantastic. Yeah, we're not going to edit that out. Everyone needs to hear that. Yeah, I know. What drives me nuts is the ones where you buy the thing and then you only get ads for the thing you've already bought.
Yes.
Like, what sense does that make?
Because the recommendation system sometimes are naive. They want more attentions from you, and it already know you are interested in this product, so it just continue to feed that information to you. It's like an information rabbit hole online.
Absolutely. Anything else you want to share?
If you are interested in social media, privacy, target ads, read the publication, even though it's 24 pages. It's a little advertisement here. And feel free to search my name, and it's on the webpage, and you can see the publication if you're interested. There are more details.
That's great. Your own targeted ad. Fantastic.
Thank you.
All right, we are to our last finalist. This is number 12.
Thank you so much.
Come on down, Nina.
We did it.
We did it. We made it to 12. Are you ready?
As I'll ever be. Hi, my name is Nina Frye, and I don't know what year I am, but I'm in the Department of Education Policy and Educational Leadership and Organizational Leadership. And the title of my talk is, Why Are You the Way That You Are? Anti-Racism in Public School Teachers. On my favorite TV show, The Office, manager Michael Scott famously asks his nemesis, the dreaded human resources representative Toby Flenderson, "Why are you the way that you are?" As a public middle school teacher who believes in anti-racism and social justice, I think about why I am the way that I am a lot. I'm what university people call a townie. My memory of growing up in Champaign-Urbana is like those classroom decorations of children with varying skin tones, limbs splayed like starfish, seemingly reaching out to hold hands with one another in a multicultural utopia. This paradigm was also what I expected to find when I began my teaching career in Washington, D.C., but I was terribly wrong. In both places, schooling for most children of color was inequitable and unjust. My research is rooted in these experiences. To me, it just makes sense that teachers would be anti-racist, meaning they actively fight all kinds of racism. In my naivete, I never expected that one of the biggest roadblocks to educational equity would be other teachers. What seemed so indisputable to me, that schooling should be fair so that all students have what they need to be successful, was, in fact, extremely controversial. When it comes to addressing educational inequities, there are teachers who can't, won't, or don't. To those who do, my question is, why are you the way that you are? Fostering an anti-racist mindset is so important because as our nation grows more culturally, ethnically, and racially diverse, this diversity is not reflected among public school teachers. Most recently, 79% of public school teachers reported being white, non-Hispanic, while the percentage of non-white students grew to 54.2% in 2020. Consequences of teacher-student racial mismatch include lower graduation rates, higher rates of disciplinary action, and lack of access to advanced coursework. Given these consequences, it is imperative that all teachers actively fight against all forms of oppression. But how do we get them to do that? My research is a questionnaire for K-12 public school teachers nationwide who believe in anti-racism and social justice. The questionnaire is designed to pinpoint experiences that help teachers form their anti-racist beliefs. Analyzing the data for commonalities can help inform instruction for pre-service teachers. In this way, finding out what makes teachers the way that they are can help develop anti-racist mindsets in future teachers and improve educational outcomes for students of color. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to not know what to do with my arms.
I was talking about Taiylor came in like ice.
Yeah.
You came in like fire. You
Yeah.
were spitting fire the moment you showed up. This is great. I'm not going to ask you why the way that you are, the way that you are. But I want to hear how the way that you are. You practice anti-racism in your teaching. I want to hear what that's like and what you do to do that.
Anti-racism is not a destination, so it's a conscious, ongoing process that we participate in to make sure that things are equal and equitable in our classrooms. So we do that through representation of learning materials, from our instructional strategies, but really that's what I'm trying to find in my research is what teachers are doing in their classrooms. So can I get back to you in like a year after I've finished analyzing the data?
I guess that's okay. Yes, yes. And also, you know, you brought up The Office, so I have to ask.
Yes.
Favorite episode of The Office?
Thank you. I've thought a lot about this. My favorite episode of The Office is, I think, Cafe Disco. It's where, you don't need to know. Oh, thank you. Also, Diwali is another favorite. But I also really, when Goodbye Toby Part 2, when Michael sings Goodbye Stranger, but he puts Toby's name in it. Eat your vegetables.
That's a mic drop.
Thank you. I'm going now. Goodbye.
She should have hosted the whole thing. All right, so that was 12. We got through everyone. They were so good, so fantastic. Like, I can't stress enough how hard that is to walk into that strange room and have like two strangers not looking at you saying, look at the camera, but over here, not at center, and just like do it. And they all did it so amazingly. It's like kind of a miracle. But now it gets hard for you all because you all have to vote for your favorite as we decide our people's choice. Here is the QR code. Here is the go.grad.illinois.edu/voterl. Get on there, vote for your favorite. I only see a couple of the finalists. Like, everyone, get your phone out, vote for yourself. Come on. All right, so while everyone is voting, I got to tell another story. I mentioned earlier that we had a group of finals judges decide 5 of our awards, not People's Choice. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about them because this was something different that we did this year. It wasn't me, but at some point in the span of the lifetime of Research Live, someone said that, you know, the idea of speaking to a general audience is like speaking to an educated high school student. And so while traditionally we've had finals judges that were faculty, staff on campus, we decided let's actually practice that and see what happens. And so our finals judges were a panel of high school students from University High. And if we can change the slide, I wanted to show them and brag about them. And a big shout out to Dr. Valerie O'Brien at Uni for connecting us with this group. This was during the deliberation where they watched all of the videos. We had pizza. They were so thorough. They were so committed. Every decision well-reasoned, some respectful debate, maybe a tiebreaker vote or two. But they were really fantastic. I was so pleased with it. And I just wanted to give a shout out to them and recognize it. Are any of them here? Probably not. I mean, if I was in high school, I'd be out doing another thing. Maybe they're joining online, but I just wanted to give them their credit. All right. Let's go back, because, yep, I'm sure. I want to keep that up for just another minute. I know we do that kind of quick, but people are able to vote quick. I also wanted to give some more shout outs, this time to grad college staff that helped From Charlotte and her communications team, John and Brandon. Brandon was our videographer who did a great job shooting. Derek, Alexis, Emily, Andrea, everybody on Student Success that helped, thank you so much. Can't do it without all of your support, and it makes a big difference. All right, let's do like the last call. I know we go quick on the online voting, but it's mainly just because it's the one I don't know, and I'm like super curious who won. I know Emily, our Associate Director for Student Experience, is tabulating the results right now, and then we will very quickly move to announcing our winners. A lot of suspense. Uh-oh, I see movement. I should probably turn this off before I start. All right, so we do have our results. I'm going to ask the dean to come back and be official with handing the certificates. Thank you. Thank you. I'll let you all, this is the order that I'm going to go in.
You want to announce them?
Well, I'll announce them here. Why don't we switch sides so you're closer?
Let me say one more. You know what? Before we do this, weren't they good? My goodness. Let's give them all a round of applause. That is so incredibly difficult to do, to talk about your work in 3 minutes, and every single one of them was a winner from my perspective. So,
well said, well said. All right, so I won't keep us waiting anymore. Our first award is the Visionary Award. This is the one for someone who is charting a new direction, and the winner is Yaman Yu. I would say the judges were just so impressed that you were so intentional in identifying this underrepresented population in the literature, and that you found some new, exciting results. All right, next we have the Storyteller Award, and that is going to Joe Mirabelli. Joe, the judges just thought you were so engaging and conversational and really wrapped in your own story. It was really great. Next, we have the Impact Award, which is going to Ricky Price. All right, our Design Award for the best slide is going to Erick Hernandez. The judges talked about your use of color and just how well composed they were able to learn something from your slide. All right, this is the one I don't know. The People's Choice is going to Gafar. Come on down, be asphalt. We didn't know who it was, so that's why we don't have his picture. And then our final award, the grand prize for excellence across all criteria, is going to Charlie Nudelman. So again, like every finalist, it was so fantastic. I wish everyone could win an award. We can't do it, but I promise we will have high quality versions of all your talks available as something you can share and show to anyone at any point. Thanks to the audience, thanks to everyone for joining, unless we have anything else.
I just want to say thank you to all of the friends and family that came. You know, I'm always amazed at the breadth of different kinds of graduate students. We have graduate students who are parents, graduate students who are non-traditional. Without question, diversity makes our institution better, and you can see a diverse array of graduate students and their support network, and that's a beautiful thing. Have a great night, everybody.